Hi besties, welcome back to my channel, or hi, my name is Stacy if you're new here. So today's video is really exciting because I wanted to review the new Clio Spring Summer palettes for this season. It's a little bit late because it took like a month for these to arrive. So I was really sad about that. Don't order from the Club Clio website if you can help it. Like if you live in the US, Olive Young shipping is like 10 times faster. It usually takes like a week for like the Olive Young stuff to get here. I ordered this like as soon as it got onto the Club Clio website and it took literally like 4 weeks, I think. So yeah, just international struggles. But anyways, I'll be doing 2 looks with these, obviously one warm and one cool. And I'll show you guys how to get those looks, including the one on my face. And then I also do a little review and demo of the new Clio Dewy Syrup Tint. That also came out at the same time as these palettes. So yeah, if you want to see my review of those and 2 looks, then just keep on watching. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, because it really helps out my channel and it would really mean a lot to me. And let's just get right into the video. So I have you guys all zoomed in so you can see the eyes better. So let's start off with the number 14 Atelier in Hannam palette, which is like the purple toned one. It's super pretty. It comes like this and it has like a little brush in it. I'm gonna start off with this lightest matte shade just to use as a base on my eyes. This is a very light pastel-y shade. That's good for like setting the eyes. And then I'm gonna go in with this middle tone pinky shade and put that in the crease. And also gonna use that pink shade and put it on the bottom lash line. Okay, now I'm gonna go into this middle purple shade. Also kind of deepen the crease with that. More towards the outer part. Just to add like a little bit of purple. Oh, they have the names in the back. So that was the shade Full of Mauve. So far I've used Sensitive Scents for the pink and Full of Mauve. Also gonna bring that mauve shade at the outer bottom corner. You can see how that made it more like an orchid type of color. Okay, now for some shimmers, I want to go into this sparkling shade called Bluing Soul. It's kind of like a wet texture, like almost putty-like. It's not as squishy as a putty, but it just feels kind of wet to the touch. Like it's very creamy, and it's very reflective and kind of like duochromy. Like it has a light white peach base, but the flip is like a holographic pink flip. And I would say like the holographic pink is more noticeable. So it doesn't really look like this warm tone color like it looks like in the pan. See. I'm just gonna do that to the other eye. I was pretty surprised about how pigmented that was, and I feel like it's also a pretty unique color. Like I haven't really seen that color before. But anyway, now I want to go into this purple chunky glitter shade that looks super pretty. I'm gonna put that in the center. It's not like a super pigmented glitter. It's not gonna show up on your eyes like this full-on color, but hopefully you can see that it adds a more purple tinge compared to this eye. Now I want to go into this kind of contoury shade called Touch the Muse. I'm gonna use that to line my aegyo. I'm using the tiny brush they gave me because it's really good for like this type of detail work. Also, this contour color is really good because it's quite cool toned and it has like a slight purple undertone, so it like kind of matches the rest of the eye look. And it's not too dark. And then we want to highlight the aegyo with this color called Keep Glowing. So this is like one of those satiny shimmers. It's not gonna be very sparkly or anything. And I'm gonna use that first to kind of get a highlighty base for where you want like the eye fat to look the most plump, like that. So you can see how it like literally contoured my under eye fat. Then since we do have another sparkly shade, and this is kind of like a unicorn type shade, this is the shade Eternal Dream. Also, this brush picks it up pretty well, as you can see. And I'm gonna put some on the inner corner as well. It also applies very smoothly. It makes this look a little bit more magical looking. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into this darkest brown shade here called Placid Mood. I'm gonna use that as an eyeshadow liner. And then I'm gonna use this M Cosmetics liner to just kind of define the outer wing a little bit more. I'm also only lining the outer half of my eye. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go off camera and do my mascara, and then I'll be right back to do the rest of the face. So now I'm back with the eyes all done. I'll show you a quick close-up of the eyes. Now for blush. So they didn't release any blush with this collection. So actually what I'm going to use for blush is this palette itself. So I watch a lot of Korean beauty YouTubers, and a lot of them seem to use their eyeshadows as blushes, which I feel like I never see like American YouTubers do. So I'm just gonna try it today since I generally don't do that either. They're technically like the same thing essentially, probably just like more pigmented. I kind of want to mix these 4 here, just like these 4 mattes, and create like a mauve-y toned blush, and it should obviously match the eyeshadow because we're using the eyeshadow. Ooh, this is a nice color. It's also quite light. To make it more pigmented, I could just not use these two lighter ones. And I'm just gonna go into the two deeper shades. Yeah, so as you can see, they're quite pigmented for a blush, but they blend out really nicely. The great part is you don't have to worry about like matching your blush to your eyeshadow because it's literally your eyeshadow. So they're kind of onto something there. I feel like this is a good hack for like if you're traveling or something and you don't want to like bring so many things like separate blushes. Okay, yeah, I think that's really cute. Okay, I really like the blush color that we made. Like it's super cute pinky purple or like lavender type blush. Okay, so now I'm moving on to lips. I'm gonna remove my lip oil I have on and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm back and I also foundationed over my lips a little just so that the lip color will be more like true to its color. I'm using this Clio Dewy Blur Tint and it's in the shade Evening Pale. I really like these Dewy Blur tints. They go on pretty watery at first, but they dry down to a more matte, like blurry finish. And once you let them completely dry down, they're like transfer proof. They're also super thin on the lips, so you like can't feel them at all. And they also like kind of have a blurring quality to them, so they fill in all your lip lines. Yeah, like this is a really good matte lip tint. It also does stain a little bit, but not so much as like a traditional tint. But yeah, it does have some like extra lasting power because of the staining effect. So yeah, I really highly recommend these Clio Dewy Blur tints. Also, this packaging is super nice, like super luxurious looking. And this wasn't part of this collection. It was part of the Bloom in the Shell collection, which was like an earlier one. This collection didn't have any lips that I thought were cool toned enough for this look. Yeah, this is actually the most cool toned lip out of the like Clio Dewy Blur tints and their new Dewy Syrup tints. That's why I picked this one, because I feel like it would go the best with this look. So what do we think? Here's the final Atelier in Hannam look, the more pinky purple cool tone look. I really like this. Like this is definitely my type of color story. Super girly, feminine. All the formulas are really nice. Like they all work together really nicely. The eyeshadow as a blush is perfect. This palette is definitely a win for me. Is this not like the perfect like pinky spring look? That's about it for this cool tone look today. And now we'll get into the warm tone look. So now we're gonna go into the more warm tone peachy palette. This is the number 15 Spring Sunshine on Canvas palette. This is the second palette of the pair. It looks like this, super pretty. I also wanted to mention that at least for all of the newer Clio palettes, like in this clear packaging, I'm not sure about the older ones, but basically you can come up with a look like just using the top row or just using the bottom row. As you can see, like the top row is a little bit warmer, more orangey, peachy, and the bottom is a little bit rosier. But yeah, so like basically any of the palettes, they have this similar like top row and bottom row cohesiveness that can also help guide you like when creating looks. But for the sake of like demonstration purposes, I'm just kind of going all over the palette. First, I'm gonna take this really light base shade called Mild Silence. Also, these names are so interesting. Again, this is just a super light, like almost white base color. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with this lighter peachy shade and use that in the crease. Oh, and that's the shade Peach Pastel. Yeah, it's definitely a really pastel peach. It's like colorful enough that you can like see it on my eyes. I really like that tone actually. Sometimes the problem with peaches is that I find them to pull a little bit too orangey sometimes, or kind of like almost muddy like. Like the warmer the tone is, the more picky I am with it. I feel like it's just like harder for it to like look nice on my skin. I have to say I really like the tone of this peach. Now we're gonna go into this slightly darker peachy shade called Art in the Coral. And I'm gonna put that towards the outer corner to kind of start adding some dimension. This is a little bit darker, but literally like one shade darker, so they're not that different. That's a good thing in terms of like it makes it super easy to make a gradient. You barely have to blend them into each other. But one could also argue that they're like a little bit too similar to be like in the same palette. But I feel like it makes it more beginner friendly, so. Anyway, now I want to go into this rosier shade. The bottom row is a slightly cooler in undertone. I'd still consider it warm toned, or maybe it's like more neutral toned. Yeah, so this shade is called Pink Workroom. So I'm gonna put this tighter to the lash line, kind of like under where I put the peachier shades. Ooh, that's giving it a very like pretty sunset vibe. I'm gonna go back into Peach Pastel, the lighter peach, and put it under my eyes just to get that covered. And then lastly, I'm gonna go into this darkest rosy shade called Spread Paint. These names are so entertaining to me. And I'm just gonna put that in the outer corner. That will also help us with the like sunset vibe. I'm also gonna put that on the bottom lash line on the outer part, deepen up that outer V. Okay, so now that we have that nice gradient, I'm gonna go into the first shimmery shade. So that's this pinky shade called Taste of Spring. Super pretty shade. I really like this. This is also the same formula as in the other one where it's like kind of wet to the touch. I would still consider it a powder shadow, but it's just like it has a creaminess to it. And then I'm just gonna put that all over the eyes. Ooh, this one is really pretty. I think I actually like the shade of this one in this palette better. than the other one. But anyway, this color is also really unique. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like a pinky peach with like gold pearl. There's also like green flecks in it. So it's kind of like iridescent, very like multifaceted. Prettier in person too. Because obviously like camera is not the best at like capturing duochromy iridescent shades. Now we're gonna go into this bigger, chunkier glitter called Sparkling Object. It's kind of like a warmer peachy gold with green glitters in it, and just add some spice to this look, so I do like that. This is like that really chunky type of K-pop glitter. The glitters in this one are more uniform and they're smaller than the ones in the other one, because the ones in this Atelier and Hannam one are like really thick and you can kind of see those like big hexagonal glitters almost. Whereas this one, it's still like the chunky type of glitter that feels kind of gritty when you touch it in the pan, but it's definitely finer than the other one. Yeah, even though like it is pretty chunky and you can like feel it on your finger, I feel like on your eyelids you don't really feel it. Like I don't really have a problem with discomfort when I wear it or anything. I literally don't feel it on my eyes. They stick to the eye super easily, like no fallout. No issues there. We're gonna contour the Aegyosal again, so we're gonna go into this contoury shade called On the Easel, and I'm gonna again use their brush for that. So what I like about this is that this contour shade is warmer than the other one. It has kind of like a yellow undertone. Yeah, I like that they changed it so that it matches with each palette, and I feel like it just makes it really harmonious with the whole look. Kind of just blends right in, you know? Now I'm gonna go into, see they also have a champagne shade here called Napping Sunshine. This is more like satiny shimmer shade that's good for this type of Aegyosal highlighting. So you could just stop there if you want your Aegyosal to look more natural, but I always like to add like a really sparkly shimmer on there. So this one actually has one less shimmer than in the Atelier and Hannam one, because this one only has basically like these two shimmers plus this satiny shimmer, whereas this one has 3 shimmers plus this satiny metallic. So this one is missing like that equivalent, but we're just gonna go into this pinky shimmer again, put some of that on the bottom lash line just to add some sparkle. Okay, so this one I think is better used with your finger because like it's just faster to build up pigment that way. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna use this darkest brown called Draw All Night and line the eyes with the shadow liner. Okay, that looks super cute. I'm gonna add a little bit of brown eyeliner to the outer corners again. Since that's exactly the same, I'm just gonna skip showing that this time. And also I'm gonna add some mascara, and then I'll be right back to do the rest of the face with you guys. Okay, so now I'm back with the eyes all done. I'll let you guys see a close-up of the eyes. I really like how the eyes came out. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the cheeks. I'm gonna do the same eyeshadow palette hack. These 3 shades might be good, or I might just mix these 2 and these 2. Kind of like the same thing that we did with the other one. The only problem with this eyeshadow hack is that it's kind of harder for base brushes to fit into the eyeshadow slots. So I'm actually just using right now the lighter 2 shades, Peach Pastel and Pink Workroom, and they're actually quite pigmented, as you can see, so you don't need to add much. And also you want to be light-handed when you dig into the palette, because there is like some kick up and you just don't need to pick up that much compared to like a real blush, since eyeshadows are more pigmented. Ooh, that's a super cute color. Now I'm gonna go into the equivalent deeper shades, Art in the Coral and Spread Paint, as like point colors. So kind of just centering that right here to add some more color right there in a more concentrated area. Okay, and I'm bringing it across my nose a little just for that like sun-kissed effect. So lastly, we're gonna go in with this, which is part of this like Atelier and Hannam collection. This is the new Clio Dewy Syrup Tint, and it's basically supposed to be like the equivalent of this Dewy Blur Tint, which they came out with a few months ago. The Dewy Syrup Tint is the glossy version and the Dewy Blur Tint is the matte version. And they released 4 shades of this new syrup tint for the spring-summer season. But I only picked up this one because this was the only shade that I liked. This is the shade 02 Soul Gill Pink. They released 2 warm colors and 2 cool colors, but they all lean pretty warm. Like this was the coolest pink color because the other one is a red and I don't really like reds, so I picked this one up. But then the other 2 warm colors were like very orange based, so I think that they would look good with this palette. It's more just like I tend to not like super orangey things, so that's why I only picked up this one color. So I'll show you on my lips. Applies similarly to the Dewy Blur Tint. I actually really like the consistency of this. It has this slight like kind of strawberry candy smell. I really like the scent actually. I just apply this all over my lips and it goes well with this look. You could match it with this other palette because it was like meant to be matched with this, but it's a little bit too warm for my liking to match with this palette because I tend to prefer a slightly more monochromatic look. So it would be too warm for like a monochromatic look, but it's still like neutral enough that it could go with this more purpley palette. This to be the coolest tone color in the collection, at least so far. I feel like it's not that cool. But I do really like the shade. I like that it's like not orangey at all. It seems like a pretty versatile pink. And also it's not too bright. It's quite a natural pink. It's just like brings some color to your lips. Like it's not neon at all, but it's also not muted. It's not like a nude or unsaturated shade. So I really like it. It's good for like every day. Super nice, non-sticky. As you can see, there's no tackiness. Now that I've let it set a bit, I'm gonna do a kiss test. So hopefully you can see that, I mean, it did transfer a tiny bit with that pink, but generally speaking, only the shine kind of transfers. As you can see, most of the color is still on my lips and most of the shine is still on my lips. It's one of those pretty nice, like long wearing, kind of like glossy lip stains. It has kind of like a setting quality to it. You're not gonna get a ton of transfer. I feel like if you wore a mask, it would barely transfer onto your mask. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty impressive for these types of glossy formulas. Now I'm gonna zoom you guys out so we can talk about my final thoughts on this collection. First of all, I picked them up because of the color stories. Like I just thought that they were super pretty. You have your warm tone and your cool tone palette. Okay, so my general thoughts are, I love this cool tone palette, the Atelier and Hannam one. This palette is totally up my alley. As you can see, the top row is more pinky, so it's a little bit warmer, and the bottom row is more lavender slash like muted. So as I mentioned earlier, you could do a whole top row look or a whole bottom row look, and it kind of like lays out that color story for you, which is really nice. And you get those two versions of the color stories, which you can also find in the warmer toned one. And yeah, in terms of formula, really nice. There was basically no fallout, even with the more chunkier glitter shades. There is some kick up in the pan, like when you press your brush into it, but I don't really like care about that. I don't really see like why that's an issue, but just pointing that out. They're pretty pigmented for like K-beauty shadows, but obviously they're not gonna be like super immediate pigment. They're usually more buildable. But yeah, they're not like super sheer or anything. They're just really nice buildable pigmented shadows. There's no cons to say about the quality of these. I picked both of these up because I really liked both of the color stories, and what I liked about them was that they're both kind of like toned down. They're more on the muted side, even though they are like more colorful colors, like they're not just brown, but they also have enough saturation in them where it's not gonna like dull you out and like wash you out, if that makes sense. Really like the tones in these. Also, especially for the warm, I have to give my compliments to it because I'm more of a cool tone gal, or just like I tend to like cooler tone colors. But for this warm tone palette, I really like the look that I came up with, and this manages to go into those peachy coral tones, but without showing up too orange or muddy on me. I really like this for like a peachy tone coral palette, and I feel like it's great for spring and summer. And then Atelier and Hannam, yeah, this is like my comfort color story, so I just feel really comfortable with this. But what I like about this is it's kind of like a mauve-y tone palette. It doesn't have too much gray because a lot of times mauves can pull quite gray. But I like that this one is like saturated enough that it kind of brightens your complexion rather than like dulling it, even though it has some of those gray tones in it. It doesn't really pull like too gray in my opinion. So yeah, really love those palettes. And then in terms of the lip, really love the color. The formula is really nice. Like it's a very sophisticated, innovative formula, especially for a glossy lip stain. The only con about this is it's pretty limited in the shade selection because there's only 4 so far. If you like the shades that you see, I would definitely recommend picking up at least one. Super comfortable, pretty long lasting, makes your lips look nice and juicy. Let me know down in the comments which look you like better, the cool tone look or the warm tone look. I honestly really loved both, but I think I have to pick the cool tone look just because I'm more of a cool tone gal. So yeah, that's about all my thoughts on the new Clio Spring Summer collection. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like this video, and comment and subscribe down below if you want to see more content like this because it really helps out my channel and it'll really mean a lot to me. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!